So we got this worksheet on Monday. I'm going to do a quick video. Why are we going back to Monday's worksheet? Because I want you to try something different, right? On our board, we have all the different forms and formulas that we need. Right here in the front, we have slope formula, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then we have different forms. We have point slope form, slope intercept form, and standard form. The reason why I put them in this order is because it'll help you on the tests, right? What we want to do is practice being able to take an equation, write an equation, and then change it to all three forms. And if you go in this order, it's the best. So if we go back to Monday's worksheet, which was specifically on slope-intercept form, we could go down to these bottom questions. As a matter of fact, the worksheet or the homework I would like you to do right now in class is to do 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, but in all three forms. So we already did this. If you haven't done it, you could work on these examples right now. Follow with me on the worksheet. If not, you probably want to rewrite these in your notebook because you're going to need a lot of space since we want to write it in all three forms, right? All three forms. So which one should we begin with? 13, 14, 15?
Let's say 13.
Let's go 13. Why not? Okay, so 13. They give us 2 points. What are points? They're coordinates. They're ordered pairs. They're a pair of numbers in order. X is first, Y is second. We call this our first point, x1, y1. This is xy, but from your second point. So that's why we label it x2, y2. Now, the very first formula that we see on the board is slope formula. And that's the very first formula that we're going to use. So we're going to write the slope formula down. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, okay? And how do we use this formula? I always recommend rewriting the formula with blank spots and then simply plug in your y2 value top left, which is -5. Plug that in. Now, most of us already did this on Monday's homework already. And then y1 value is 3. Plug that in right here on the top right, which is 3. And then x2 is -3, and x1 is 1. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's combine the -5 minus 3 up here on the top. That'll give us a -8. You owe 5, you owe 3, you're going to owe 8. And on the bottom, you owe 3, you owe 1, you're going to owe 4. So what do we have here? We have a slope. And what is the slope? -8 divided by -4 is +2. So we have the slope value, right? And that was just doing the top of the board right there, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay. So next, we have a slope, and we actually have points. So that's why I chose to write the point slope form next, right under slope. Even though this is the latest thing we learned, I think we learned standard form first, then slope intercept, then point slope. The reason why I wrote it in this order is because it'll help you when you're writing it in all different forms. We started with the slope, and now that we have the slope and some points, we could go with point slope form. So I recommend writing it in point slope form next. So everybody write down the point slope form equation. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And notice that as I was saying that, I left them with blank spots, and now I'm filling in the blank spots. So on the form that we have right here, notice that what's written in black, that's what you should always start with, and leave the red, the blue, and the red as a blank spot. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to rewrite that point slope form. Y minus blank spot equals blank spot parentheses x minus blank spot. So where am I going to get my y1 value from? Right here, the 3. So that 3 is going to be in the y1 spot. There's a 3 right there. How about the x1? Well, the x1 is 1. Where does that go? That goes over here, and that is a 1 right there. All we need left is to plug in the m value that we just found, which was 2. We're going to plug in that 2 right here where the m is at, so we have a 2 right there. And ladies and gentlemen, this right here is in point slope form. This is it. So what I want you to practice is to go back to this worksheet and practice writing all three forms of that same line. So this one was point slope. You could write it point slope. There you go. So that's one of the forms. What other forms do I want? Well, I want slope intercept, and I also want standard. So what's the difference between point slope and slope intercept? Well, at the very least, you know that point slope has parentheses, and these guys don't have parentheses. So how do you get rid of parentheses? You simply distribute 2 times x is 2x. 2 times -1 is -2. No more parentheses. Bring down the rest. Bring down the equal sign. Bring down the y, the -3. Now, it's almost in slope-intercept form. I just need to get y by itself. So what do I do to get y by itself?
Plus 3.
Plus 3, right? So plus 3 here, plus 3 over here. We now have it in slope-intercept form. Y equals 2x plus 1. That right there is slope-intercept. That's slope-intercept form. So we have it 2 forms down. We have the point slope. We have the slope-intercept. Last but not least, we need our standard form. What is standard form? Your x's and your y's are on the left side of the equal sign, and you want your number by itself on the right side. They're also capitalized to help you remember that you don't want fractions or decimals. Now, in slope-intercept form, many times you will have fractions in the rise over run. So if you did have like a 2/3 right here, you'd have to multiply everything by 3 and then move the x over to the other side. But in this case, all you got to do is move that 2x over to the left side by getting rid of it, by subtracting 2x. What you do to one side, do to the other side, subtract 2x. And you're not really even subtracting, you just rewrite it. So what is that? That is a -2x with a positive y equaling a positive 1. And this is standard form. Now, an alternative way of writing the standard form would be to change your a value to become positive by multiplying everything by -1. So you may have a positive 2x instead of a -2x, a minus y, and a -1, changing all the signs. But either way, both of these are in standard form. Standard form. So ladies and gentlemen, we have written all 3 forms of this single line that passes through these 2 points. Again, we started with the slope, and then since we had a point and a slope, we went to point slope, and then we distributed and we moved something over to get the y by itself, which is now in slope intercept, and then we moved the x to the other side, which changed it to standard. So the idea for today is to become pros at coming up with any line by doing your slope formula and your point, writing it in point slope form, and then manipulating that equation to write it into your other 2 different forms. You want to get really good at using all these 3 different forms. And again, the reason why I wrote it in this order on the board is because if they give you 2 points, you start with the slope formula. From there, it's really easy to use that slope that you just found and the point that you just used for the x1, y1 that you plug in right here, and you'll be able to write it in point slope form. And then you could get rid of the parentheses by distributing the m value and doing the opposite of this, moving it to the other side, and that'll change it to slope intercept. And then you could move this x value to the other side to get it over here, and then it would change it to standard. I hope that makes sense. Let's try another. Which other one should we do? 18? 18. All right. So what should I start with? What's the first thing on that board? Slope formula. All right, slope formula. So what is slope? Slope is y2 minus y1 over x2. Whoops, I wrote it in black instead of red. That's weird. I'm used to writing it in red. Anyway, we're going to get our x and y values from here. x1, y1, x2, y2. We're going to use the slope formula by rewriting it, division, subtraction with blank spots. Let's actually plug in our y2 value top left, which is -2, y1 value +6 top right, x2 bottom left, which is 3, x1 bottom right, which is -1. And the minus minus changes to plus. So our slope will be -2 minus 6, that's -8, over 3 plus 1, that's 4. So what is our slope? Our slope is -2. Are you with me? I hope so. Good. One person's with me. All right. So we have our slope, and we have some points. So what do you think would be good to go with? Standard form, slope intercept, point slope form? What do you think? Point slope, right? As a matter of fact, I put it in order so it could help you. You start with your slope. Once you have slope and you have some points, you actually have 2 points here, you could go with point slope form. So let's go with point slope form right now. This is the first type of equation we're going to write. Point slope form is y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And whenever you use this form, I recommend rewriting what's in black with blank spots. So y minus blank spot equals blank spot parentheses x minus blank spot. And then you simply plug in your y1 value right here. What is y1? 6. So everybody put that 6 right there in place of y1. What is the m value? We just found that out. Negative 2. So everybody put that negative 2 right there where the m's supposed to be at. And then we have the x1 value right here. What is x1? Negative 1. So everybody should put the negative 1 right there. And of course, whenever you have a minus, you change to plus, plus. That's right. Now, this right here is point slope form. So if I ask you to write it in point slope form, this is what you would type in, and you'd be done. Again, that right there is point slope. Okay? Now, if I want all 3 forms, what would be the next nice form to use? Yep. After point slope form on our board, it's slope intercept. All you have to do is distribute and then move this over, and you'll get y by itself. So let's distribute, move that over, and then you'll get y by itself. So when I distribute negative 2 times x, what do I get? Negative 2 times x. Negative 2x. When I distribute negative 2 times 1, what do I get? Negative 2. That's great. Bring down the equal sign. Bring down the y minus 6 on the left side of the equal sign. Now let's get the y by itself simply by getting rid of that minus 6. How do I do that? How do I get rid of a minus 6? Plus 6. What I do to one side, I must do to the other. I end up with y cancels out equals negative 2x plus 4. Y is by itself. That is in slope intercept form. The slope is negative 2, or negative 2 over 1 if you want to say, and the b value is 4. Anyways, this is the slope intercept form, slope intercept. So we did point slope form, we did slope intercept form, we still are missing the standard form. Just to remind you, standard form is capital AX plus capital BY equals capital C. So we don't want fractions, and we want the x's and the y's on the left side. So we have the y on the left side, but the x is on the right side. I need to move this over here to this side in front of the y. How do I get rid of a minus 2x? Anybody? Plus 2x. So I'm going to go plus 2x. That'll cancel out. And what I do to one side, I do to the other side, plus 2x. And that will give us our standard form equation. You want ax plus by equals c. So you want the x term first. That will be 2x. You want the by term second. That's plus 1y, or just plus y, equals the capital C, which in this case is a 4. And this right here is your standard form. Standard. Okay? So we, on this single problem, we incorporated everything we've been learning this week and even from last week. We used all of this, everything on the board. We used the slope formula. We changed it from there to point slope, or wrote it in point slope form, and then changed it to slope intercept, then changed it to standard. I know, beautiful, right? Yeah. I don't know. Any other one you'd like to try?
No.
14, 15, 16, 17? 17. Why not? 17, why not? Okay, so to make it a little quicker, I'm not going to be, no, I am going to write down all the formulas. I don't want to do any shortcuts here. So the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. How do we use it? Well, we're going to rewrite it, but with blank spots. And we get the x and y values from right here. x1, y1, x2, y2. So let's plug in the y2 value of negative 3, the y1 value of positive 3, the x2 value of 1, the x1 value of 3. Doing the math, up on top, we have a negative 3 minus 3. You owe 3, you're going to owe 6 altogether. So that's a negative 6 up on top over 1 minus 3, that's a negative 2 on the bottom. So what is the m value? M equals 3. Thank you, the one student that's following me. So I do have a slope and I have points, right? So what would be good to start with? What form of the 3 would be good to start with? Point slope form, right? You have some points, you have a slope. Let's go with point slope form. Now you could use the first point or the second point as long as you pick one of them. I'm going to always stick with the first point, even though you could use the second point if you want. Here's my point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m parenthesis x minus x1. And of course, when you use this, please rewrite it with blank spots. Y minus blank spot equals blank spot parenthesis x minus blank spot. Now my y1 value happens to be 3, so I put a 3 right there in the y1. The m value we found out was 3 also, put a 3 right there. And the x1 value happens to be 3 also. Man, we just plugged in a bunch of 3s. For me, it's not that confusing because I have all these different colors, so I stay color coordinated. The M is always blue and the points are always in red. If you're using a single pencil, a colored pencil, then it might be a little more less understandable. I don't know. Let me keep going here. Anyways, this is our point slope form equation. So if I asked you for point slope, you would type that in and you're done. Point slope. Now, let's say you want to change that to a different form. Well, the other forms, it doesn't matter which one you're talking about, whether it's standard form or slope-intercept form, neither of those have parentheses. So we need to get rid of those parentheses by multiplying or by distributing, right? We have some parentheses here. Let's get rid of them by distributing 3 times x. What do I get? 3 times x. We get 3x, okay? How about 3 times negative 3? Negative 9, okay. And then we have the equal sign that comes down and the y minus 3 on the left side. Now this is almost in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. I just need to get y by itself, and that means I need to get rid of this minus 3. So I get rid of the minus 3 by going plus 3. That'll cancel out plus 3, and I will have my slope-intercept form equation. Y equals, the slope is 3x, or 3 with an x, and then minus 6. That's your b value. This is slope-intercept form, slope-intercept. Cool?
Cool.
And now, last but not least, let's change this to standard form. And standard form is where we have capital AX plus capital BY equals capital C. X's and Y's are on the left side of the equal sign. The number's by itself. They are capitalized to help you remember that you don't want fractions or decimals. And we don't have any fractions or decimals. All we need to do is get this 3x over to the other side. So, how do I get rid of that 3x? Subtract 3x. So minus 3x, that'll cancel out, minus 3x. You can't really subtract y take away 3x. You're just going to rewrite it. And you want your ax term first and your by term second. So write the minus 3x first, and the positive y second. Then you have your equal sign. And of course, you only have a negative 6, the c value, on the right side. Now this is standard form, but sometimes in multiple choice quizzes and tests, they write it with the a value being positive. In other words, they may multiply everything by negative 1, changing all the signs to a 3x minus y equaling positive 6. So this is standard form right here, standard. Once again, we have taken 2 points. And what do we do with those 2 points? We applied the slope formula. And then we used the slope and the point to write it in point slope form. And then we distributed and moved to write it in slope-intercept form. And then we moved again to write it in standard form. All 3 different forms just given those 2 points. And once again, I want to reiterate that our board has all that information for you, right? Slope first, then I recommend point slope form, and then change it to slope-intercept, then change it to standard, okay? This will get you ready for the test, right? Even though on the test, I'm not going to ask you, hey, write it in all 3 forms. I'm just going to say, hey, write it in slope-intercept form. Or, hey, just write it in point slope form. But if you're able to change it in all 3 forms, then you're going to be able to ace the quiz this Friday.